Well, in this session, we're going to spend some time talking a little bit about leadership and management, the differences, how they tend to overlap. And rather than get into a lot of detailed definitions, we're going to try to avoid that, keep it pretty simple, and yet differentiate between the two concepts. To help us, you'll see over here on the upper left-hand corner of the screen, we have an organization, hierarchical in a pyramid. We have a leader here in green, and we have a manager here in blue, and the organization is moving in the direction of a vision that illustrated by the arrow. So let's just jump right in. Let's start with the role of leader, and that is one who basically, short version is, the leader is the individual who is out front, pulling that organization in a direction that we will refer to as essentially uncharted territory. What do I mean by that? Well, if you think about it, leaders are about the business of creating a vision for that organization about what it wants to become, but not what it is today. And so that means that leaders are trying to move the organization by exercising their power to influence the behavior of the organization in the direction of that vision or strategic intent. And the purpose of that influence, therefore, is to achieve a common goal. So the leader's role really is dealing with a great deal more of uncertainty than anyone else in the organization, because he or she has charted a course which may not be familiar with those who are in the organization. Now let's turn sort of quickly to management, or the manager's role. You know, the sarcastic short version on the manager's role is that that's the person at the back of the organization making sure that everybody stays in line. And that's a bit of a sarcastic view, but in fact, when you look at the manager's role, it really is about the ability to maintain a sense of order and focus. So I'm going to say order and focus are two key pieces, and what I mean by that is two things. First is managers are trying to ensure that they are supervising the activities of the organization. So leaders, in many respects, sort of jumping ahead, have that dual purpose. They have to lead, but managers, the management role is to supervise those activities and make sure they're being done in a proper fashion. And the second component of that is that managers are focusing on routines. And in one of our models, one of the key routines for an organization is this idea of managing their risk. Again, we'll talk about risk in another session. So as you look at the two, you can see the differences are that the degrees of uncertainty are pretty significant between the two roles. And the broader context, the role of leader and manager as well, is driven in large measure by the nature of the environment. Now, we have said previously that there are some overlapping functions here. And so if you draw a Venn diagram and show this overlapping area here, this is where leadership and management have common tasks. And as we look at other exercises, we're going to have you take a look at how they may differentiate between the two, and the role of manager versus leader. Now, if you want a great resource to go to, there's a book entitled Leadership Theory and Practice by Northouse. It was published in 2007 by the Sage Publication Company, and it's a great resource that has a lot of detail that we're not going to get into in this particular session. Now, with all of our sessions, we're going to try to give you a little exercise that will help you understand for your part of the organization or your organization what are the differences between leadership and management. So let me pull the screen up here a little bit, and here's the task. The task is to gather your team together, and first off, we'll use a flip chart. And the purpose of the flip chart is to capture your thinking and your group's thinking. So as you think about the role of leadership, what I'd like you to do is, on a piece of paper or that flip chart, write down what are the key characteristics that you see are most significant that influence the behavior of your own organization. And then secondly, in a group setting with your team, do the same. Now, some of these ideas are going to be similar, some are going to be quite different. What does it do? It helps you to establish having an open dialogue with your team about how they see the role of leadership in your organization, as well as your understanding from your own perspective of the role of leader in the organization that you work in. Why is that important? It's important because as you think about your particular role and what you're doing, it will help you to understand how you can best work with your team to achieve those common goals. I hope this has been helpful, and in another session we'll spend more time talking a little bit about some of the evolutionary changes that people go through as they move up in an organization from relying predominantly on their technical skills to their leadership skills, and how those competencies change.